All right. So obviously I'm the health talk, not the tech talk here. My name is Rhett Andersen. I've been in the fitness industry for about 5 years as a personal trainer. I've been working with Drew for about 3 years. I was talking to Drew and telling him I had several ideas of stuff to talk about and was having a hard time narrowing it down. And he said, just talk about it all. So I kind of took his advice, since Drew is so wise, and decided to do my 10 ways to optimize your health. This is stuff that I've observed and researched over the years in the industry, and hope you guys can take something new from this. Number 1 is eat nutrient-dense foods. So what are some nutrient-dense foods? We hear organic a lot. Some people don't know exactly what that means. It just means that your food comes from no chemicals, no preservatives, and some other reasons people choose organic is because it keeps chemicals out of the air, water, soil, our bodies. For example, an apple that is not organic, that's even been rinsed, still has 20 to 30 artificial poisons on it. Encouraging innovation. Organic farmers are the ones who are spending their time researching ways to reduce pesticides and minimize agriculture impact on the environment. Number 3, protecting future generations. Kids are exposed to 4 times more widely used cancer-causing pesticides in food as opposed to adults. Number 4, supporting a true economy. It often seems that buying organic is very expensive compared to conventional farming, but you don't realize you're actually paying more hidden costs on the conventional farming through taxes, paying for different testing for hazardous waste disposal and cleanup and environmental damage. So there are some hidden costs to factor in there when you make your choice. And number 5, promoting biodiversity. So all organic farming is biodiverse. Conventional farming uses what's called monocropping or monoculture. And this is basically setting aside a large plot of land for one specific crop year after year. And what that does is depletes the soil from all its essential nutrients and minerals. And so they have to supplement with chemical fertilizers. So you're getting a lot more chemicals in your plants than when you're eating conventional farming as opposed to organic. Not just from the fertilizer in the soil, but they also have to use more chemicals and the pesticides because conventional farming is more susceptible to pests as opposed to organic farming. This shows an example here of a test done by Rutgers University. And you can see across the board the minerals found in these different vegetables were at least 3 times as much all the way through, in often cases more than that. So you're actually missing out on some essential minerals and nutrients if you're eating strictly conventional. Beef. So a lot of people may disagree with this or think I'm crazy saying that beef is one of the most nutrient-dense foods. But I'm talking specifically about grass-fed beef. A very big difference between grass-fed beef and corn-fed. So most beef you're going to find in the stores is corn-fed. Industrial beef is corn-fed. They're locked into a cattle lot like you see there and confined and fed antibiotics and hormones. Excuse me. About 29 million pounds of antibiotics used a year. Instead of grazing in an open field on grass, which is their natural diet, they're eating 90% corn and about 10% of other cheap candy, starch, different meat processed, waste, etc., stuff that they shouldn't be eating and leads to a lot of sickness in the animals, therefore the antibiotics. And so the meat is totally different nutritional makeup than that of a grass-fed beef. If you look at some of the charts there, there's 2 to 4 times more omega-3s in grass-fed as opposed to grain-fed. Why is that important? Omega-3s are lacking huge in Americans' diet. Average American has a ratio of omega-3 to 6, about 40 to 1, omega-6 to omega-3. And what that causes is a huge level of inflammation in the body. You want those to be as even as possible, as close to 1-to-1 as you can get. So it's hard to find omega-3 rich foods. Beef is one of them, specifically grass-fed. Grain-fed is not. So it also has 5 times more conjugated linoleic acid, which enhances muscle growth, reduces heart disease, and lowers cancer risk. 4 times more vitamin E, 10 times more vitamin A. Those are just a few of the things, reasons why grass-fed is much more healthy than grain-fed. If you don't eat beef for ethical reasons, one point of view I just wanted to bring up that I thought was interesting that I heard recently on a podcast. One handful of grain brought to you takes more lives than feeding your family beef for a whole year. The little rodents, rabbits, squirrels, bunnies, birds that are killed on the tractors gathering those grains actually take more lives than, as I said, feeding your family beef for a whole year. So I thought that was pretty interesting, something to think about. So this includes grass-fed butter. My clients get excited when I tell them that I suggest eating butter, and the more the better. So if you fill up on these good healthy fats, the less crap you're going to be eating, the better you're going to feel. The omega-3s actually is very good for your brain function, memory, focus. You know, your brain is made up of fat, and so these are the healthy fats that you need to function at your best. Another good one that I eat by the tablespoons is coconut oil. I'll put it into my smoothies. I'll cook with it. It's got a high boiling point, so it can actually cook very well, better than olive oil or any other oil. It's high of antioxidants. The medium chain triglycerides, or MCTs, have huge benefits. You can see the list there. It helps with skin care. You can rub it on your skin for massage for stress relief, your hair, strengthen, weight loss. It actually destroys candida in the gut, which is yeast overgrowth, which triggers weight gain and carb cravings. It helps strengthen your immune system. It aids in digestion. It helps reduce the risk of diabetes and also heart health. It actually improves your cholesterol profile. And number 2, that was a long number 1. They're not all this long. Number 2, reduce high-risk foods. So number 1 high-risk food I would say would be sugar. And there was an interesting infographic put out by Princeton University did this infographic here. And they compared sugar to cocaine, which I found pretty fitting. You can see the chemical makeup they show you there. Addictive qualities in both. Triggers your dopamine receptors in your brain and alters the reward system. The high is euphoric, more energetic, elevated mood. Dental effects include teeth decay and gum disease. Health effects include seizures and heart disease. And so they did some studies with rats, and some pretty interesting results came about. The rats consumed more sugar when they were deprived for a prolonged period of time. They definitely showed signs of restlessness and anxiety when they were taken away from the sugar. And the most interesting, I thought, was the dependence factor. 94% of the rats that were addicted to cocaine chose sugar over cocaine. And mortality, you see at about 5,000 deaths a year from cocaine-related abuse, and obesity epidemic is about 300,000 deaths, some of which can be attributed to sugar. Processed foods. These have become a staple in Americans' diet, and food technologists have figured out a way to just put the right amount of sugar, the right amount of salt, and just the perfect amount of crunch. Scientists have found there's a certain level of crunch that our brain seeks out when we're eating. So they've actually figured all that out, and it makes it really hard to stay away from those foods. Number 3 is believe. You have to believe in what you're doing, that it's going to work, that you're capable of achieving the results you want, that you're going to get healthier, get stronger, all that stuff, whatever you're trying to do. Visualizing, what are you going to look like, what do you want to look like, what are you going to feel like, and actually believing that you're capable of all that. I feel like that's a big, one of the first and the most important steps. Next is ask questions. question everything. I always say, don't take the first opinion. Don't be scared to get a second. This includes with doctors too. Get a second, third, fourth opinion. Misdiagnoses are very common. Even stuff you're hearing today, don't be afraid to question it. Go up home, do your own research. I encourage that. Spend more time researching your health. Number 5, sleep. We all know sleep's important. About 7 to 8 hours a night is recommended, but it can be difficult for a lot of people to do that. So I want to talk a little bit about circadian rhythms. Circadian rhythms is basically a 24-hour cycle in your body, which is powered by I'm not going to butcher it, whatever that is in the brain. We'll call it your body clock. And so what happens is this triggers the release of different hormones in your body based on different triggers like light and dark. So in the morning, our bodies wake up to the light, and the cortisol kind of gives us the energy to get up. The adrenaline gives us the energy to keep going. And the serotonin that's released kind of makes us conscious and brings us to. And as we go through the day and the night starts to come and the light starts to fade, our pineal gland transforms the serotonin into melatonin, which aids in sleep and starts to bring us less conscious and hence fall asleep. The problem lies in all the devices that we have on in our homes, TV screens, computer screens, smartphones. If you're looking at these screens, you're actually tricking your brain because that's a blue spectrum that's put off from these screens. It's basically the same as the light that's outside during the day. So you're kind of throwing your brain off and you're not producing that melatonin when you're trying to go to bed, so it makes it much harder to fall asleep. So I suggest as the sun goes down, try to start turning down the lights in the home, try to turn screens off as much as possible. It's hard to do, and I know some people are required to work past 7 o'clock at night. So one handy tool that I found for me when I use my computer beyond sunset is an app which I have no affiliation with, but I'm going to give it a little shout out. It's called Flux. It changes the blue light spectrum in your screen to a red light spectrum, so your brain is still able to kind of go through those normal processes and release those hormones in the way they're supposed to. Spending more time outside. I know not all of you live in sunny San Diego, and it's a little bit harder to get motivated to go outside. But I do encourage you to spend as much time as possible as you can with keeping in mind overexposure to the sun. But that's really kind of the opposite of what I'm talking about now. Is there's a lack of sunshine in a lot of people's lives. Vitamin D3 is deficient in 3 out of 4 Americans. So some symptoms of D3 deficiency include cancer, heart disease, diabetes, mental disorders, weak muscles, cold and flu, and kidney disease. So you can get your daily vitamin D3 in just 10 to 15 minutes in the sun with about 40% of your skin exposed. So obviously you want to avoid overexposure, and burning is obviously harmful, but you do want to get that exposure to the sun without sunscreen on for that 10 to 15 minutes. Because if you're not getting that each day, you're really missing out on your D3, because it's hard to get in foods. As listed, there's fish, eggs, and liver, and D3 supplements. That's about it. You're not going to find it anywhere else. And unless you're eating a lot of those things, I would still suggest getting out in the sun on a daily basis. And next is breathing and or meditating. People will go weeks and even months without really slowing down their brain and slowing down their breath and relaxing and just not letting your mind go crazy. So I suggest setting up some sort of breathing routine on a daily basis. It can be just 1 or 2 minutes, and you'll see just after that 1 or 2 minutes such a big difference. Some of the benefits include from oxygen exchange helps with aging, helps relieve headaches, alleviate tiredness, boosts your immune system, helps with depression, helps with physical performance. So there's obviously a lot of benefits to breathing. And just taking that time to slow down can also be effective right before a meal. I heard a good podcast from a food psychologist who was talking about our brain is always in one of two modes, either fight or flight or this other, more relaxed mode. And if we can be in the greatest mood ever and be totally content, but if we're in a hurry when we're eating and we're kind of rushed and kind of have that like nervous energy, our body's not going to be able to digest in the way that it would if we were taking our time to kind of scan our food, take a few deep breaths, take your time chewing, slow down. You're actually going to change your body. You can change that brain from the fight or flight mode in 1 to 2 minutes just through that breathing exercise. So it's very effective in helping to aid in digestion and lose weight in general. Mobility work. So this is some tools you may have seen, foam roller and a lacrosse ball. I try to use this stuff on a daily basis, and it's basically just massaging yourself in areas that are tight and knots build up. This happens even just from sitting or any kind of physical activity. So another way to do it is through a professional, but I would recommend a regular sort of self-maintenance of massage in areas that you know are tight and problem areas, and kind of coupling that with some stretching or yoga to help improve your mobility and flexibility. And kind of always be conscious of your posture too, as you're sitting a lot. We all are. Number 9, gratitude. It's important to be grateful for what you already do have, I believe. Your body, focus more on the stuff that you do love and you're appreciative of. If you're always focused on the negative things about your body and you're always have that negative self-talk, you're probably not going to see the results and the progress you want to see. Definitely not in the same amount of time. So I hear clients sometimes they'll say it's something like, "Oh, my arms are so weak," or something like that, and I try to encourage them to change that vocabulary to something like, "Oh, my arms are getting stronger," and kind of your brain picks up on those things, and I bring up the placebo effect sometimes because that's something that's so strong, and people kind of dismiss it. People will take a pill and get better off just the idea that they're believing that what they're taking is making a difference and that it's helping. So I think it's important to kind of be grateful and kind of have a more positive focus when it comes to your health and your body and your outlook. And the last one, number 10, move more. So sitting at a desk for 8 hours a day and then commuting in traffic and sitting at home at the computer when you get home, sitting down to dinner. There's so much sitting in our lives, and I think this is kind of a funny image that shows the regression of posture and health in general that's becoming very common. So sitting, some other problems associated, increased risk of obesity, high blood pressure, cardiovascular disease, cancer, depression, back pain, neck pain, and possibly Alzheimer's. So obviously that's something we want to be aware of and be conscious of and try to do some things throughout the day to break up your sitting, whether it's setting an alarm at your desk to get up every hour and just walk up and down the hall, just activating those muscles and breaking up that extended period of time of sitting is going to make a big difference. Some other solutions can include a stability ball. Any seat that doesn't have a back on it is going to be more effective because you're going to engage that core. This also, obviously, you're using some stability. Standing desks are becoming more popular in workplaces, much more effective. There was a study done recently by the Center for Disease Control in 2011. They installed some standing desks in a workplace for a large group of employees, and just after 2 weeks, you can see here 87% of them felt more comfortable, 87% felt more energized, 75% felt healthier, 71% felt more focused, 66% felt more productive, happier, less stressed. I mean, you can see there's many benefits, and this is all from just having the sit-stand device installed at their workstations, and this was only standing for an additional 66 minutes a day on average. So it's not like you're standing the whole entire day, but you're just able to kind of break that up and have bigger chunks of standing throughout your day. Other comments included low back pain, or less back pain, less shoulder tension, posture improvement, decreased wrist and elbow pain, and increased comfort. No negative comments were received. So that actually, one more thing. Walking is another great way. You can be moving more. You take your leopard cat out for a walk, or if you don't, just get out yourself. Walking has so many benefits, and it's just not utilized enough. It reduces dementia. It reduces diabetes, actually cuts the risk of diabetes and heart disease in half. Just 30 minutes of walking a day. And reduces pain in the body, reduces arthritis, and depression. I've actually heard it said that 30 minutes of walking is more effective than an antidepressant. So I would encourage you guys to find some ways to incorporate some more movement into your day and try to be less sedentary, and kind of keep in mind all of these things play a role in your success of finding your optimal health. It's not just one thing. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up to any questions if there are any. What's up?
So you mentioned podcasts a couple of times, and
Yes.
I hear a lot of resources from people saying, you got to eat paleo, you got to lose gluten. So I'm wondering if you have any recommendations, because I like podcasts as well. They're kind of maybe all-encompassing, that aren't in their own one mindset.
Yeah. Well, my favorite one that I've kind of jumped on is Bulletproof Executive. Most of you probably heard of him, Dave Asprey. And that's...
This guy did his website.
Oh, nice. All right. Yeah, I mean, I've heard a lot of different, and it's tough because most of them all have their own angle. Like, I haven't necessarily heard one that kind of doesn't pick a niche. So it's kind of hard to say if there's kind of a more generalized one. But I've found that he is the most open to new research, and he's actually done the most research himself and bases it off science, and does a lot of tests on himself, spends a lot of money testing himself. And so I find it very valuable to take information from people who have more money than me and have more time invested in this stuff than I do, and then kind of weigh that information against other stuff out there. And I've found that his take on things has been pretty accurate across the board and checks through very well. And yeah, so that's kind of one of the podcasts I've really been enjoying. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Bring it back to you.
This is more a comment than a question. For anyone interested, there's a really cool app called Stop, Breathe, Think, which is an iOS app. And it's just a nice little meditative app. It gives you like reminders if you want, and has a little sort of walkthrough for how to sort of just basically take 5 or 6 minutes out of your day just to turn your brain off.
What was that called again?
It's called Stop, Breathe, Think.
That's cool. Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. I'm definitely going to check that out. Recommend it to some clients.
Any other questions?
I've heard a lot about omega-3s and their positive effects. You mentioned we have a 40-to-1 balance of omega-6 to omega-3. What's a way of testing ourselves to see if we need a boost in one or the other?
I personally haven't done that test myself, so I can't really say. I'd imagine your standard blood test would be able to pick that up, but I really can't give you an accurate answer on that because I haven't done it myself. I just know that that's the average for Americans is 40-to-1, and so I just do my best to make sure I'm eating the most omega-3s I can throughout the day, and I've minimized stuff like that has a bad ratio, like peanut butter. I used to love peanut butter, but I had to switch to almond butter because it's got a better omega-3 to omega-6 ratio. So just finding those balances in my diet has just been the way that I've kind of taken control for myself, but I still don't have a clue where my ratio is at. I'm just kind of hoping for the best and doing what I can at each meal to make sure I'm trying to get those high quality fats.
Any other questions? Okay.
CrossFit, I think it's great. I think it can be dangerous because it's so competitive. There's a lot of injuries. I see a lot of people get injured, and I think it's because of that competitive drive when you get around a bunch of people that are all doing the same thing. So, but at the same time, that also has a great effect in accountability and becoming a part of something. Kind of helps you stick it out and go when you're not really feeling it. You know that people are going to be like, hey man, we missed you at CrossFit, where were you? So it's not something I do on a regular myself. I've done it several times, but I find it to be great for a lot of people. It kind of depends on the personality type and the person, but and the specific CrossFit class. A lot of them are better at ramping people into it than others, but I think it can be a great tool for people that are looking for something like that.
I personally have trouble with standing desks because I can't focus because I'm too focused on standing. But, I was wondering, for the people who are sitting or at computers a lot, which I imagine most of us are there like any simple stretches that you can actually show us how to do?
Yeah, sure. So some common tight areas for sitting is going to be your hamstrings. All right, I'm not tied to anything. A good hamstring stretch would just be standing up, aligning your heels, slightly turning your back foot out, hips squared forward, and just kind of falling down forward, keeping your back straight. Okay, you can see my hamstrings are pretty tight, but if you're rounding your back like this, that's not stretching your hamstrings, that's stretching your back, you know? So you can do one leg at a time like that. You can square up and do both legs too, it's the same thing. But basically stretching your hamstrings get super tight. Glutes get very inactive while you're sitting, so it's good to do also some butt clenches. You know, you squeeze your butt. You can, if you have the ability to lay down on the floor, put it like a yoga mat or something down, and do a floor bridge. Anybody know what the floor bridge is? I don't know if I want to lay down right here and do it, but it's a great exercise for.
Do it.
All right. All right. So your heels are about 6 inches from your butt, and you just raise your hips up like that. Nice straight line from your knee to your shoulder. And you're just focusing on clenching your glutes, squeezing your butt tight, stomach sucked in, palms up, and that's it. You just hold it. You can do repetitions like this. You can increase the difficulty by just doing one leg. But that's one of the best exercises to kind of battle sitting, you know? So
Rhett watches me do that like multiple times a week.
yeah. Yep. It's true. Any other questions?
So at work at Zero, we actually have every single desk is a stand-up desk, and it's kind of like a culture thing that all the offices for Zero we have them, and we actually started using the stability balls. Is that
right? Yeah.
So pretty much we go from stand-up desk to sitting on those.
Awesome.
And we just
Have you noticed a change in your
posture.
environment, your posture? Yeah. Awesome.
And I can't think when I'm sitting. So
You can or can't?
I can.
You can stand. What about have you found your productivity to be better or worse?
I think that better. I think because there's a lot of movement. We're always in meetings and everything, so there's always you need to get up and go everywhere. So you're kind of already standing, and so you just kind of have to go. You're kind of on the go rather than sitting down and mellowing down and so.
Cool.
You touched on with the omega balance, inflammation. There seems to be a growing awareness around that and leading cause of disease and a lot of other health issues. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, like you said, inflammation leads to a lot of different diseases, and weight gain. Essentially, a lot of people are just inflamed, and they don't understand why they're cutting their calories down drastically, and they're still not seeing any weight loss. There's obviously a different problem there, and a lot of the times it's associated with some type of inflammation, and and that just kind of has a trickle effect of compounding on itself to other problems. So I think, I don't know how to elaborate on much more than that. Then I think it's hugely important to try to bring that at least in a more reasonable balance than to where we're all sitting on average.
Cool. Another resource that I found recently is called calm.com, CALM.com. And it's great for like meditation. They have like this cool like videos of like tranquil water and sound and stuff. It's cool.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks, Rhett.
Yeah, you bet.